Hi, Archana.
Hi.
Hi,
Hi,
nice to meet
Nirmala. Hi, hi. You can hear me?
you. Yes,
Yes.
we have Dr. Nachiket and Priya who have joined. So we're ready.
Oh, great. Great. Hi, Dr. Nachiket. Hi, Priya.
Hello, how are you?
Archana, good to see you.
Hi. Good to see you too.
initiatives undertaken by pharma companies, what are the best practices, and what is the best way forward going. IPA, as we all know, comprises of 25 companies, and the focus of IPA is on three major agendas, which is innovation, quality, and global reach. In fact, IPA companies have been supplying quality assured, affordable medicine to more than 150 countries around the world. And affordability is the major focus area for IPA companies. IPA has been working with Samhita for last 4 years to work on CSR initiatives, and the first report was launched in December 2020, and this report was titled Beyond Business, Contribution to Social Initiatives. The world has moved forward significantly during last 4 years. We saw COVID, the unprecedented situation, and during that time, IPA companies and whole industry supplied medicine to over 200 countries around the world. We said that we need to relook and relearn from whatever has been done during last 4 years. And we again approached Samhita, great work which has been done by Priya and the team, Nirmala there, and Pranav and Archana have been coordinating, and thanks to all IPA companies. In fact, we have reworked on this whole process, and the whole Samhita team has been working for last 12 months. They did primary research, secondary research, and also interacted with human champions who played a vital role during the whole process of CSR. And there are a lot of good insights which have come during the process. And we said, let's broaden this agenda. And hence, this year report has been titled Deepening the Responsible Business Agenda, Showcasing CSR and ESG Initiatives of the Indian pharma industry. So the whole focus has been broadened beyond CSR, and we are talking of environment, we are talking of sustainability, we are talking about governance. This report comprises the outstanding work which has been done by many of the companies, and thanks for all the companies who are spending a lot of time with Samhita. In fact, the CEOs have been involved and making sure that we are able to get the best out of this whole report. This report highlights the kind of work which has been done. And if I summarize, there are 20 million families which have been directly impacted because of CSR initiatives. It has impacted around 20 states all over the country. And the work has been in the area of healthcare, education, sustainability, capability building. But some of that work which will be discussed during the course of the discussion today. We are privileged to have you, Dr. Anish Chawla, today for this keynote address. In fact, despite multiple priorities, we requested Dr. Anish Chawla, and we again requested him when he was in Ahmedabad that he should join us for keynote address. We are thankful to him. We have also have outstanding panel, which will be moderated by Priya Nayak, CEO of Samhita. And we have in the panel Satish Reddy, Chairman Dr. Reddy's, Dilip Sangvi, Managing Director Sun Pharma, Mr. Pankaj Patel, Chairman Zydus Life Sciences. And we have also got Dr. Nachiket Moore, a visiting scientist, Indian Academy of Leadership in Mental Health. In fact, Dr. Nachiket Moore was also there with us during the first launch of the report in December 2020. I'm sure all of you are looking for the keynote address by Dr. Anish Chawla and also the panel discussion, very insightful panel discussion. And I'm sure there will be a lot of learnings which will come out from this, both keynote address and the panel discussion, which we like to take it forward. With this, I invite Dr. Anish Chawla for his keynote address and then launching the report. Over to you, Dr. Chawla.
Thank you, Dr. Sudarshan Jain, esteemed guests and leaders, captains of the industry, Mr. Pankaj Patel, my good old Dr. Satish Reddy, my good old friend Nachiket. I'm very happy to see you here again in action. And CEO Samhita, Priya Nayak, for producing this beautiful and very useful report. I congratulate the Indian Pharmaceutical Alliance for having done outstanding work on the CSR front. Health, as you know, is a healthcare sector, as you know, is a public good, and government spends, but the private sector spends much more in our country. We have a model which is, I would say, best for all. Both the public sector and the private sector contribute to healthcare in the country. And healthcare has many positive externalities on the society, on the economy, and sustains not just skills, capabilities, well-being of our population, our workers, but it sustains both economy and growth in the long run. And therefore, anything that you do in terms of the CSR initiatives, and during the course of whatever you produce in terms of technology, and even in the normal course of business, has a multiplier effect on the economy at large, and it touches not just lives of people and citizens. In fact, it makes a difference in the long run. In particular, I would like to mention and congratulate the great work IPA has done during COVID, and in making not just the vaccines, medicines, diagnostics, but the entire supply chain accessible to people at India at extremely affordable prices. And in a situation where our global value chains were complex, they were spread across the globe, and help from abroad was not forthcoming, you have risen to the occasion, and you have shown to the world what India is capable of. And we are proud of you. I would also like to take this opportunity to mention that today's event is a very timely initiative to showcase the efforts undertaken by the pharmaceutical companies beyond CSIR to address societal needs of various kinds. You have created shared values for both business and society, and this is of fundamental importance. Corporations that create value for society by employing business strategies to solve difficult social issues are held in high regard. In recent years, the CSR landscape in India has gone a notable evolution, and this report aptly describes what pharma companies have realized by creating value for the society and by making CSR and social initiatives an integrated part of their corporate strategy. The betterment of our society is fundamental and a collective responsibility of the government, corporations, and the citizens of India. Purpose-driven businesses are increasingly recognized, crucial for organizational success. In this regard, CSR can play a pivotal role in filling the gaps, particularly what businesses and market cannot, and thereby reaching further out to the people. Our pharma industry has played a pivotal role in shaping global health outcomes and improving lives of millions of people worldwide by providing essential medicines, vaccines, drugs, and now even complex generics to the whole world. During the recent G20 summit, with your help, we all released a coffee table book, Indian Pharma Saving Humanity. This report highlighted the journey and the contribution the sector has made over the decades. Our Honorable Prime Minister rightly said that Indian pharmaceutical industry is an asset not just to India, but to the entire world. I would particularly like to appreciate Samhita, who's been working with IPA for the last several months to compile this CSR initiative and this beautiful report, Deepening the Responsible Business Agenda, is before us, and I display it here for everyone to take formal note of in the webinar. The focus of this report is responsible business agenda across CSR initiatives, healthcare, and sustainability, and it recognizes the exceptional efforts exhibited by the champions of the industry. The report documents initiatives to improve accessibility, availability, and affordability of medicines by the pharmaceutical companies, in particular, the contributions of the pharma sector during the COVID-19 pandemic, the diverse CSR models and initiatives implemented by companies across healthcare, education, community development, and livelihoods. These innovations also include effective investment in R&D and the steps taken for creating a scientific social responsibility. IPA companies are at the forefront of CSR engagement, spanning social economic development projects across 22 states in the country, which reach over 15 million people. The diverse geography and the widespread population that has benefited in our country from these CSR initiatives. I urge the pharmaceutical companies to continue taking the ESR and ESG initiatives, shifting towards a responsible business framework. I congratulate on-ground workforce, the social enterprises, the volunteers, which were involved in the implementation of these initiatives. The report should serve as a benchmark for other sectors to build purpose-driven organizations, integrating business with the society at large. Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you all for joining us here. Take care.
Dr. Chawla, we request you not to formally release the report. Rohit, can you please help?
Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chawla.
Can we all give Sudarshan Jain, Priya, and the IPA family a big hand?
We request all panel members, thank you very much, all our industry leaders and Nachiket More, and thank you, Dr. Chawla, for this very insightful discussion. We will all join to show the report if it is okay with everyone. And Dr. Chawla, we will also request you to Dilip bhai, if it is. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. So over to you, Priya. You have been working very intensely on this, and I request you to moderate the panel discussion. Priya.
Thank you, Mr. Jain, and thank you, Mr. Chawla. So while I'm really delighted to be here with all of you, so I'm looking forward to welcoming all of you to an insightful session in which we have some of India's leading pharmaceutical, healthcare, and philanthropic leaders sharing their perspectives on how the pharma industry is not just contributing to large-scale and cutting-edge healthcare advances, but also really leading the drive in terms of sustainability and societal growth. The Indian pharma industry is worth about $50 billion and growing rapidly. It is one of the largest contributors to the national CSR mandate and has implemented many effective and efficient approaches when it comes to healthcare, education, and environment for millions of Indians. From innovating new and improved state-of-the-art and low-cost techniques to manufacturing life-saving drugs to being at the forefront of the COVID-19 pandemic response, pharmaceutical companies have demonstrated a continued commitment to society and the planet. The Indian pharma industry is uniquely positioned as a force for good, both from a business and a beyond business perspective, thus embodying what we call a responsible business approach, really the true essence of this knowledge report. In this session, we'd love to hear from leaders about what they think are the latest CSR and ESG advances, and really what role can IPA play to really catalyze this ecosystem around CSR and sustainability. While the report documents the outstanding work done by all of you, we'd love to just get started with two questions for you, Mr. Sanghvi, Mr. Patel, and Mr. Reddy. What is the one key CSR initiative of your company that you are most proud of? And what's your single advice to other pharma companies as they start thinking about scaling their CSR and ESG initiatives? So, Mr. Sanghvi, if we can begin with you. Sun Pharma's CSR vision is really to bring holistic development to underserved communities in a sustainable and impactful manner. And one of the key CSR initiatives that you champion is the mobile health unit, which has reached more than 5 lakh individuals. We'd love to hear from you what you think is the work that you've done that's truly remarkable, and also your guidance to the rest of the pharma leaders.
I think I see Pankaj Bhai and Satish also here, so I don't think that they have to. They have done great things on their own. Nachiket more would be aware of many more things that others have done. But let me share with you what we've done as a company, and I think we plan to continue to do. So, Prime Minister, I think, has, as a part of global commitment, has agreed that India will work towards becoming malaria-free by 2030. 2030. So, the malaria, as you're aware, is a vector-borne disease. And the reason why you have spread of malaria with mosquito bite is that one infected person then leads to more infected people. So and globally it has been done to establish that it's possible to be reproduced in India, and with systematic effort, we can significantly reduce the disease burden. We've initiated this project in Mandala, a high malaria infection district in Madhya Pradesh. And by looking at simple things, is that treat a patient as soon as he is detected, find a way by which anybody having fever or chill is diagnosed whether he is suffering from malaria or not, and is treated immediately. In a period of 2.5 to 3 years, we have been able to reduce the disease burden by almost 91%. And the idea is that we are sharing this with government, both in the state as well as in the center, that it can be then replicated by the government. Then we wish to partner with the government so that the experience and understanding that we have can be shared with others. In the same way, I think we have it's not yet operational, but the idea is to set up a cancer treatment in India will continue to be a disease which will be treated in large cities. So how do we provide accommodation and ability for people who come from districts to stay and get treated properly in Bombay? So we're creating a facility for housing 1,500 patients. So we expect this to have a significant improvement in the disease outcome of patients. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share our experience.
Thank you, Mr. Sanghvi. So, Mr. Patel, I think over to you. Your 4 key CSR initiatives, Swasthya, Shiksha, Shodh, and Saath, benefit lakhs of Indians in the areas of health, education, research, and environment. Would you like to highlight a specific intervention that you particularly love? And again, would love to hear your advice to not just the pharma industry, but also we have 132 participants logged in. So any advice for others interested in healthcare and the pharma ecosystem?
Thank you, Priya. And there's going to be a lot of repetition, but I would still like to continue saying that our ESG, our program is based on the UN Sustainable Goal, ESG goals. And I think, as you mentioned, the 4S is the very science we call it, is developed for the CSR activity. Our key, we have many programs, but if I highlight a couple of them, one of them is the healthcare program. We set up a hospital and medical school at a backward district of Gujarat in Dahod. And this is basically driven by the vision of our Prime Minister, Narendra Modi ji, to bring best healthcare to the rural community in India, and particularly the tribal area. So these hospitals serve in the tribal area of Chota Udaipur, Jabua in Madhya Pradesh, and Ali Rajpur in Rajasthan, and so other nearby area. So this hospital is a 1,034-bed hospital, provide completely free service to patients. And there, last year, there are about 4 lakh patients where OPD treatment were provided to them. Similarly, the indoor patients were large. Almost 80,000 surgeries were done last year. And one of the highlight I would say that is that during the COVID period, among all the districts of Gujarat, this district of Dahod has the lowest mortality because there was a hospital which was modern and able to provide support to people who suffered with COVID. The other important point is that with our medical school, we started adapting families. The students of the college are adapting families, and they work with the family for their nutrition and hygiene development. And this being a tribal area, you can understand that the nutrition levels are low, they are undernourished. At the same time, their hygiene also is lower. So I think that has really helped in terms of gradually bringing up number of families, and every year about 2,000 families get inducted into this program, and every year they keep on changing. And over a period of time, we believe that this will spread like a wildfire everywhere around. The other important thing we did is we support a deaf and dumb school in Ahmedabad, set up by Mahatma Gandhi. And this is set up in 1930, inaugurated by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. And this school has about 600 students who are not able to speak or listen. And what we have done is we have created specialized programs by which they can get a skill development. So what we have done is that we have taught them mobile repairing skill. And the second thing, we taught the ladies, the girls there to do some cooking, particularly bakery kind of thing. And both of these have made them self-employed. So I think the point I would like to highlight is that we will spend the money, but I think impact of them on the society at large and the people who benefited from them is more important for us to really measure. Money can be spent, I don't think that's a difficult thing to do, but actually getting an outcome is more important, and measuring that outcome can be. So I think my advice to my friends and colleagues in the industry is that select a program, create a team which will be committed to make it successful and remain focused. And I think if that is done, I'm sure Indian pharma industry can definitely help a lot in terms of bringing up social outcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Those are sort of very wise words. Mr. Reddy, turning over to you. Dr. Reddy's vision is to contribute to sustainable community development and shared value creation. You have really been a pioneer in skills, livelihoods, education, healthcare, and agriculture. We'd love to hear you talk about your favorite program and, again, any advice to those that are listening.
Sure. Thank you, Priya. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to share our experience. As you said, one of our flagship program happens to be in livelihoods, which we implemented through our Dr. Reddy's Foundation. And the one which I would like to talk about is one aspect of it, which is livelihoods for people with disabilities. I just heard Pankaj Bhai talk about the school that he supports on deaf and dumb for deaf and dumb students. But if you see disabilities itself, if you take India as a country, almost about if you see the disabled people, almost about 74% of them, somewhere anywhere between the ages of 15 to 60, they're either unemployed or they're probably just employed as marginal workers. So the scale of the problem, is huge. Even if I talk about the government, Dr. Chawla will appreciate this. In spite of several programs, in spite of many of the initiatives are being undertaken, a very small percentage, make up the government workforce even today for people with disabilities compared to the targets which are there. So I'm just saying it's a very big challenge in terms of what it is, but we are definitely making our efforts. It's like in terms of the number of centers that we set up across the country, and we've been at it for almost, the past 15 years. So just to give an idea of what we do, it's basically a 2-month core employability skills program, a training program. It's communication on soft skills, it's on aptitude, it's on things like computer operations, some kind of a sector readiness, interview skills. So all these are the ones we train, and typically the age group is between 18 to 35 years. And this is not something we do alone in terms of starting with the funding part of it. Not just Dr. Reddy's, the foundation is also supported by large organizations like HSBC Bank, for example. Very recently, Standard Chartered also has started to support JP Morgan in the past. Also people from the industry, and it's a lot of partnership that goes on. But overall, in terms of an impact of close to almost 20,000 people with disability, we've been able to help them build skills, so that it's not only just get jobs, but also certain aspect of it to do with self-employment. In terms of disabilities, we cover almost about close to 11 disabilities, including one of the recent ones which we also got into was intellectual disability. Because that's how we have expanded the program. And the training also, it's not just the training part of it, even in terms of matching their job opportunities. That's also something we help the people. And just to give an experience even of the company, and to also again say how challenging even this aspect is, people, instead of just outside, we also said in Dr. Reddy's we should increase the people with the disability whom we employ. And it was a very, very challenging issue, because even the people whom we said that are available, who are skilled and all that, it was extremely difficult to mobilize them. Or even if they got the opportunity, they won't last very long in the company. And then we realize other problems, right? So this is something probably I would highlight, saying that it's not only just making them skill ready, it's even the organizations which have to be ready to take in. And also it's important on the softer aspects also, for example, even the employees of the company being extremely sensitive. In fact, the foundation used to come and do this kind of, sensitizing workshops just to make sure that people are ready, So it's these kind of things that we have done. And there's still, again, quite a bit of opportunities that we see that we can continue to neutrality. This was also something that we, went through quite a bit. And we said that, in terms of our goals, we said by 2025 itself that we should become we should become a water positive company. And that's seemed to be an ambitious goal when we took it about, 2 years ago. Right. So obviously we did, all the various things which are required, in terms of managing the wastewater, eliminating the risk of groundwater contamination, setting up wastewater recycling plants. The zero liquid discharge plants is something we always, implemented since the very beginning, and also the safe disposal of the waste. So by doing this multiple interventions that we put up, harvesting structures, watershed programs, rejuvenating the ponds in and around our locations, a lot of these agricultural efforts which we did with the community, for example, through, again, partnership with the foundation, several things we did. And interestingly, although we said, we should do this by 2025, we became a water positive company by FY 2023. 2 years earlier itself, we achieved the target. So that's something we actually feel extremely good about. And I think in terms of learnings, again, like you asked from different companies, especially a lot of things, looking at different sectors, especially from the technology companies, how we can use that, even from finance companies, in terms of some of their risk management efforts, in terms of their governance structures. There's a lot of things that we can pick up from different sectors, which will only add to our ESG agenda. So that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy. Those are both comprehensive and, like you said, fairly ambitious. But love the fact that you're kind of leading the charge with that ambition, right? And executing so flawlessly against it. So, Mr. Sanghvi, you're a signatory to the India CEO Forum on Climate Change, and Sun Pharma is fully committed to both national and global priorities on climate change. You've contributed very significantly to environmental projects. We'd love to hear from you how you are encouraging your stakeholders to embrace sustainability in their business operations.
No, I think the basic approach that all companies have would be similar, is that how do we, what you call, recharge more water than what we consume? How do we reduce the water consumption and recycle as much as we can? Create carbon sink by planting trees. Also, I think in addition to whatever I think what Pankaj and Satish shared, and I'm sure they also have similar initiative, is that as a company we do CSR, but last 3 years I think we started conscious focus on involving our team members in doing various socially relevant projects of volunteering, and typically we expect a person to spend at least a day volunteering for anything which is useful for him. And as a company, we organize, say, beach cleaning drives or blood donation camp, things which they take children of their community, in their area for picnic or something, but do things which are socially relevant so that they feel good about themselves and they feel that business has purpose beyond business. So at the same point of time, I think making an impact and consciously measuring the impact of each of our CSR initiative so that we focus on what is working and what needs to be tweaked so that it can produce the desired level of result.
Thank you, Mr. Sanghvi. And just a request to the audience, I know there's a lot of you there. If you have any questions, suggestions, or even comments to post, we'd love to hear from you. I have one last round of questions for the panelists, and then we'd love to turn over to the audience as well. All of you are valued and critical members of the IPA community. So a question for all of you, and then maybe we can begin with Mr. Reddy and then Mr. Sanghvi, and then Mr. Patel and Dr. Moore, if you could sort of summarize at the end. The question is, what do you think, how can IPA member companies can be a catalyst of change and really champion responsible business practices both within the industry as well as outside?
Sure. So I think especially members in the IPA company, again, most of us are large companies. We do have the resources, we do have the experience. This is something I think all of us, again, I speak on behalf of my colleagues in the industry here. We probably can, come together to also help, the other companies, especially the smaller and medium scale companies. If they would also like to pursue a certain agenda, it's like we should be very willing to, offer our platforms or probably also collaborate with them to see if they can come together to do something on a larger scale. Otherwise, instead of doing piecemeal, is there something larger they can do, and then they can take guidance, and we are more than willing to offer this guidance, especially to shape some kind of a responsible business agenda, which they can, take towards the community. And again, it's the question of, how important it is for a company And if we are very serious about it, and I think there's plenty that can be done, because like I'm saying, it's not doing things in piecemeal, to look at larger causes. For example, especially when COVID happened, it was a emergency. Everybody got together, and then we were able to do something together, right? In terms of the response. Similarly, I think even when it comes to some kind of a long-term agenda on various things on the healthcare side, which where we can contribute using our expertise, using our experience. That's something I think collaboratively also something can be done. That's something I would like to leave a thought with the companies.
So, Mr. Reddy, can I sort of push you a little bit more on that point? Do you, and I'm sure that you may have had these discussions within the IPA ecosystem as well, any sort of 2 to 3 ideas that you may have discussed in the past in terms of where collaborative efforts can really be galvanized and where you think you'd have enough of sort of a majority wanting to support it?
So, for example, I mean, it was not discussed within the IPA committee on this particular idea that I'm floating around. So, for example, there are manufacturing plants which people have in different locations. So, if I take our example, we have lots of plants in Vizag, right? So, and then there is always, one-way push coming in from especially, the local MLAs and, the local administration saying that, can you do something, they established to do something for this particular PHC or, do something for the certain aspect. I mean, by pooling our resources, right? So we can probably do something, with a larger purpose over a period of time, and in fact, actually hold the local administration accountable for implementation, right? So because they're the ones with all that administrative capability, they're the ones with, all the mechanisms on how to implement. We can provide funding, we can provide some kind of a guidance, but there's something that we can do together so that at least the communities around our locations stand to benefit. That would be something I would suggest. And similarly, it could happen in other locations.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Reddy. And I know, for example, and hopefully Nachiket will get to it as well, we've talked about sort of health system strengthening, and that can really benefit from the kind of guidance that we have along the IPA ecosystem. It could be investing in pharmacies, which benefits everybody, right? Communities at large and the industry more specifically. It could be supporting more people to come into the healthcare ecosystem and be much more effective caregivers. Because we, on a day-to-day basis, see how healthcare workers really struggle. And I don't just mean the ASHA and the A&M ecosystem, but the broader ecosystem as well. So just wanted to put out a couple of ideas that I know would really benefit from the expertise that all of you have, both individually and as an industry. Mr. Patel, we'd love to hear from you as well. Just sort of your goals for how member companies within the IPA can be a force for change.
So I think since we are thickly connected with the healthcare sector, there are a few points which comes to my mind which member company can collectively or individually can make a difference. I think India has a very large outlay and number of hospitals, primary health care centers, and so many things. However, what lacks there is the management. It's not about infrastructure, but it's more management. I think the expertise which companies have and working with the government or semi-government organization to really make those centers more effective would itself be a big thing which IPA members can contribute definitely, because they understand the science, and secondly they also have capability to manage things better. And that would not require funding, but that would require some kind of a government support to make sure that they happen. The other things, of course, strengthening the economy through ESG goals are going to be important part for any industry to take care. And I think the members of IPA should also remain focused. And the last and most important is that what if the next pandemic comes? What if some of the healthcare issues which are currently there, how does industry really support come with a kind of a preparedness where we are always ready to face difficult situations if at all they arise in future. For example, AMR is a major issue emerging now, and not enough things are being done, and that's one area where the pharma companies together as a consortium can think about doing something meaningful in the area of AMR. So that many such examples are there, but I believe that there are many things like that can be done.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. And turning to you, Mr. Sangvi.
No, I think as both IPA as well as a company, what immediately comes to my mind, and maybe we do it in some of our facilities, is that we share with industries around our factories our practices for water management, for environmental impact assessment, on ensuring some simple best practices. Is that how do you manage the waste discharge in such a way that you are able to manage with least negative impact on environment, and you are able to manage it effectively. So, and that seems to be working, because in and around some of our factories where we've started this, we've seen overall improvement in the environment and the pollution coming down. At the same point of time, I think in IPA, we have now an initiative for skilling, upgradation of skilling for ensuring quality. So global best practices for GMP, both for sterile and aseptic manufacturing, as well as for solid oral and other dosage form manufacturing, meeting global quality standards. So that, and the idea is that when this facility is fully operational, we will have ability to train up to maybe 10,000 students every year. And then plan is to expand this further. But the idea is to, how do we contribute to increasing awareness, increasing capability and competence all around.
Yeah, fully agree, Mr. Sangvi. Dr. Moore, if you want to go next, and Mr. Chawla, if you'd like to add anything from your end as well after Dr. Moore finishes.
No, I'm very pleased to hear from the industry leaders. One of the underlying messages I'm getting, to use a word, is stewardship. How can, what I'm hearing from each of the different leaders is how can they be better stewards of what is going on in their own factories, in their neighborhoods, in the local communities where they are, with other industries, by sharing best practices, by coming together to figure things out. I really like Pankaj Bhai's comment on the AMR, because there's another type of stewardship that is there. And, one of the challenges, I work in rural primary care, and one of the issues that we are grappling with now is fever of unknown origin. Right now, what happens? You go in, somebody shows up with a fever, no response for 3 days. Now they're hitting them with antibiotics. That, do they work, do they not work? We have no idea. But because the underlying diagnosis is not there, protocol is not there, what is the person supposed to do? I'll be honest with you. Somebody was asking me, give me a simple protocol for urinary tract infection. It's the number one reason why antibiotics are used by women in this country, right? Unfortunately, there is no standard protocol in India. I had to borrow one from South Africa, because most are hitting things with all kinds of antibiotics that are not very useful. One suggestion I would have, in the spirit of stewardship, is that each of you specializes in some drug categories. Does it make sense for you to start developing standard treatment guidelines, standard protocols, get involved in understanding diagnostics, so that people like me who are trying to bring, better diagnostics for fever, so that I know it's a scrub typhus and, something needs to be done differently instead of something else, I'm able to do that fairly quickly. So I like this underlying message of stewardship across environment, across disease, working with local communities, the sharing of best practices that Dilip said, which I think is really quite powerful, because everybody is learning the same thing. You can see that many of the messages from each of the leaders is kind of similar. Is there an opportunity to share that? Because you would have taken years to develop these ideas internally. Does it make sense to even set up some kind of a website within IPA to say, here are some of the best practices around water, around pollutants, around energy, around something else, which, they don't hurt your competitive capability with each other, but really advance the whole idea of stewardship. So I must say, I'm very pleased to see that each of you is thinking about this issue in a careful way.
Yeah, and if I may add, Dr. Moore, I think, because we work so closely with the government and civil society, I can't help but tell you how incredibly important that is, right? Basic protocols, basic guidelines, the ability for a large number of actors that face the community on a day-to-day basis to be guided by these Western class practices that they are not capable of creating, right? They definitely have the ability to support the delivery of it. But I think to have all of you as leaders guide the creation, the training, the capacity building really would be transformational from a healthcare ecosystem perspective. If I could just turn to Mr. Chawla, I know you've been listening very patiently to a lot of the leaders who have now shared some phenomenal ideas. Would love to hear comments from you as well.
Thank you very much. I've heard Pankaj Patel, Dilip Sanghvi, Satish Reddy, and Nachiket very well, all the panelists. I just wanted to share one thought or maybe one suggestion. And this, because in my early stages in my career, I have worked at the grassroots. And at grassroots in very poor, tribal, very poor and backward areas of the country. And I've had the opportunity to specialize, and one of my areas of specialization is outcome-based policy making. I have one practical suggestion in relation to the topic we are dealing with today and the context of the report we are releasing today. Say as IPA, we have the largest pharma companies, we have the captains of industry, and say we have a pool of CSR resources, like say 400 crores, 500 crores in 1 year. One of the biggest problems in the health sector and one of the biggest gaps is the health systems at the grassroots. And the problem lies in things we normally don't care for. We are good at creating local infrastructure. We are good at creating manpower, appointing people. But we are very poor at everything else. And that is where the game is. That's where the health outcomes lie. Fortunately, to correct this failure, we don't need too much money. We just need a little flexi fund, say even 10 crores a year, which we could put into the IPA pool as something like Health Systems Initiative, if I may use a very simple, neutral and non-political word. And we have experts within our system. I would suggest we don't force ourselves on anyone. The state health departments who are willing to work with us, we could work on the critical gaps in the health systems at the grassroots. And these critical gaps are things like convergence of services, matrix management, monitoring systems, reaching to those at the bottom of the pyramid. These are very, very little augmentations. For example, to be more clear and more simple, say at a village in the heartland or a panchayat level in the heartland, if we can bring together the grassroots health workers like ASHA workers, the grassroots preventive health workers like Anganwadi workers, the grassroots healthcare delivery workers like ANMs and so on and so forth. And if we could weave them together into a modern health system, which brings in simple concepts, convergence, matrix management, delivery of services, household registers, couple registers, and bring real health and wellness, preventive, promotive, and curative. At that level, we can change the future of our own country. We can change the future of our communities. We can make an intergenerational difference. And we can do it with very little money. So all I'm suggesting is we set up a health systems initiative within IPA, where you can, to start with, we can just contribute, say, 5% of our CSR funds. And we create a mechanism like this, where policymakers at the state level who are willing to work with us, we support them and we help them. And I'm ready to contribute my time, expertise to this effort. I thought this was a good opportunity and the right forum to make such a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chawla. Dr. Moore, I know this is one of your favorite topics. Would you like to respond? And then we'd love to hear from Mr. Sanghvi, Mr. Reddy, and Mr. Patel too.
No, nobody better than Arunishi to understand the ground level reality, in terms of what is really needed as a gap and what can be done to fill it. I know Pankaj Bhai already mentioned management is a big problem, but maybe perhaps that word makes better sense for hospitals, etc. What I think Arunishi is saying is even at the grassroots level, there are similar issues. There may be simpler issues to solve, but actually there's already a lot of money being spent, already a lot of human resources being deployed. Somehow it's not coming together to deliver the services that are needed. And I think it's a wonderful idea if IPA can come together around something like this and benefit from Arunishi's own involvement and guidance. That way, the government's acceptability, willingness to collaborate would also improve. And it's not a political agenda. Any government should be happy to work on this. No, I think it's a lovely idea.
Thanks, Dr. Moore. Would the others like to respond as well?
If I can just respond, I think it's definitely a great idea, Dr. Chawla. In fact, in one of our health initiatives that we do through the foundation, we focused on one part of a systemic problem for the Srikakulam district, just to get started. Why Srikakulam district? Because that's where our, majority of our manufacturing footprint is located there. So the ones we chose in that area was about PHCs. Because, again, there were issues very similar to what you were talking about, but it was basically to increase the footfalls in that area there. It required a comprehensive, relook at the whole thing, starting with the infrastructure. That was just the basic, to see what we can improve. But then, the management systems, the diagnostics, even the pharmacy, the way it was arranged and, the way it was being dispensed, it required that kind of a input that we tried doing. And it actually had dramatic impact in some of the things that we did. We just started with a small, and then we want to demonstrate in the entire district before we take it to the state government, to actually say, can we improve the model? What I heard you say is, especially involving the key people, especially the ASHA workers, the ANMs and, and the people who are actually part of that system. How can we then solve the problems, more into the grassroots, which means essentially at the villages, to see what can be done to strengthen the systems there. So it's definitely an idea that we can work on. And I do agree that it's something that can be done more collectively, as an industry than trying to do this individually at that level, to see what can be done. And thank you for the offer of offering your expertise. It will be very, very valuable if you can take this up. Thank you.
Mr. Patel, Mr. Sanghvi, would you like to respond and or any other points that you may have?
Clearly, I think it's a very useful suggestion is that if we work on this together, because government already invests a significant resources and funds in creating the healthcare infrastructure. If we can achieve a much higher impact of this infrastructure, like what the suggestion is that with relatively less investment, but achieving a much higher impact, will definitely help towards improving the healthcare infrastructure at grassroots, and that will ultimately lead to overall societal impact.
Mr. Sanghvi, Mr. Patel?
So I don't want to repeat everything what has been said, but I think Dr. Chawla, this is a very good point. And as IPA, we would definitely like to work with you, see that how we can develop this into a kind of an initiative which IPA can do. We can start small, but if it works well, then it can be scaled up very easily.
Thank you very much. I'll quickly come in so that doesn't take anyone's time. That's awesome, and very happy that all the captains here support the idea, and I also take the clue. Let's not try and do it all over the place. Let's do pilots, and maybe the best thing to do will be where the IPA leaders have their plants, where their manufacturing facilities are located, and maybe take those districts, and maybe take a few districts in the country at a pilot level, and and we just make this a kind of a health systems initiative. And as I very rightly said, and something like this, we can work with almost everyone, because it is something which is completely non-political, and it is actually a systems job. The systems job has not been done, and which is why we see failure of outcomes at the grassroots. Thank you very much. We can evolve a methodology with the IPA Secretariat so that it does not waste anyone's time. Everyone is very busy in their own lives doing whatever they do, and they do it very well. So my best wishes and gratitude to all of you.
Actually, Mr. Chawla, if I may also quickly react, we recently signed a partnership with USAID and FHM Engage to actually improve the livelihoods and healthcare of 1 million women. And so just to add to the point that you made, in addition to working with the local healthcare ecosystem that the government has already set up, and Dr. Moore is also guiding us on that, we're also bringing together a combination of information, the ability to strengthen the local pharmacists as well as the private sector ecosystem. We're bringing a series of financing solutions, everything from health savings, health insurance, returnable grants, credit guarantees, etc., so that the average Indian has access to everything from information to products and services to financing solutions, and really building capacity, not just at the individual's end, but also at the delivery partners' end, whether they be private sector or part of the government ecosystem. But to do this systematically, I think, and now particularly given all of the work being done as part of the health stack and the digital public infrastructure that the government of India has created, what seemed to be a fairly heavy lift is suddenly becoming much easier than we ever thought possible before. So would also love to support the initiative that you were talking about here. But thank you for your time. I just have another, maybe 1 or 2 quick questions for everybody. There is a lot of questions that have come in the chat box, if you're okay with it. A lot of you talked about the work that you did collaboratively as a response to the pandemic. What I'd love to hear from each of you is given that we saw large-scale collaboration, a sense of urgency, immediacy, right, 4 years ago, how can we bring some of that energy and urgency to maybe pick up the idea that Mr. Chawla proposed, but also maybe other things that you may be thinking about? So would just love to hear from you. How can we create the same sense of urgency and importance to solve any healthcare challenge that you believe is important?
So I can come in and just say, I think that can happen if all the stakeholders involved in this healthcare play come together. During the pandemic, not only we as industry, but the whole of the government machinery came together and collectively we could achieve the goal. So if we have to repeat that, then one need everybody to work together to make that happen. And of course, the initiative has to come from the government. And I believe that we industry would definitely very willing to work and create any support which is required in any kind of initiative the government is planning to do.
If you can just add on to it, Priya. So I think besides what Pankaj Bhai said, it's absolutely right that, it's like we have demonstrated that in the past, right? So nobody asked us to do it. It was a collective effort for a national emergency. We gave in all our time because it was a pandemic of unprecedented nature at the time. That's why we got together. In better times now, just like Dr. Chawla just talked about, maybe one problem that he thought could be a critical gap in the grassroots healthcare systems. If we are able to identify one problem and rally around the people, and then if they also understand the impact it's causing, the negative impact on the society for not addressing them, and a problem that can be solved. If that conscience comes in, I'm sure just like how we responded to the pandemic, the people would be more than willing to participate in this. That I think just that sense of awareness, if we can create, identify that critical problem, and also, how we want to go about it, and fully agree with Pankaj Bhai, the government has to be also completely with us on this, and that will actually, drive people to, start doing something about this.
Let's ask a follow-up question. Who do you think should start this process? Do you think it should come from one of you? Should it come from the IPA? Should it come from the government? Who's the one stakeholder that you think can catalyze this conversation and then action?
I'm quite sure IPA can, catalyze this conversation because it is an industry association. It's like besides the number of things that we do, even during COVID, there were a lot of things which, IPA championed, not just as individual companies, but as a group. I'm quite sure that we'll be able to take it up from there.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Sanghvi, Dr. Moore, if you'd like to react.
No, I agree with what Satish said. There is a cause, well-defined idea. Government is also supportive. Becomes much easier for companies to get involved and try to, whether it is what Anvishi said or some of the other initial ideas on antimicrobial resistance, or whichever we think is the right framework. And because there are too many causes, too many issues, everybody goes in different directions. But if there is something sharp and which is seen to be something one can do something about, has an immediate impact, I think that galvanizes people. In a way that something that is very long term or something that may not really show impact quickly. We certainly don't want another crisis to make it happen, but even just internally. So I really like the way Satish put it.
Sanghvi, if you'd like to react.
I think all of the what you call panel members have similar view, is that it needs to be a solvable problem, it needs to be urgent and critical, and it needs to show result. If it takes few years to demonstrate success, then it's difficult to maintain that level of what you call commitment for the cause. But I think I'm sure that once we identify a specific urgent problem that we want to fix out of the issues which Dr. Chawla discussed, I think it should be possible for us to rally around and focus on how to come up with a best solution.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sanghvi. And just my last question, and feel free to respond, whoever you sort of wants to step in. But given the changes in the entire technology ecosystem, telemedicine really has had many more advances in the last few years than ever before. So given that, large scale collaboration, digital access looks very different than it ever did before. And just coming on to the topic of collaboration, what do you think are the 2 or 3 key developments that you're seeing in India right now, whether within the healthcare ecosystem, whether within the financing ecosystem or the digital ecosystem, that you think can really be catalysts to help you not just create, but rapidly execute this common vision that you're talking about? What do you think we can really take advantage of?
No, I think certainly the telemedicine part of it can have a big impact because if I again take it to the society, starting from say the villages, a lot of it is to do with access, to quality healthcare, and it is not easy to, for example, go and establish some kind of a large tertiary scale units, in these districts. Every district, although it's a pronouncement that keeps coming in once in a while from local politicians, but if there are again some kind of satellite operations that are set up, the use of telemedicine, and then linking up the doctors in the nearest more advanced kind of a facility, that can actually help. Again, it's a whole process that needs to be put into place, at a very systemic level to do it. But the technology would actually help, put this together. So that would be the kind of things I think that can be looked at. So.
Nachiket, I know you have your favorite clinic of the future example.
Yeah, one
If you
thought I
want to
would
give
have
that or
just to
anything
add
else.
to Satish's point is that, finally optic fiber is coming into remote areas. We've been talking about universal service obligation for a long time, and they've just been building money year after year after year into lakhs of crores. But, I was in Meghalaya recently, even in very remote areas, you're starting to see high bandwidth connectivity, right? And by 2025, 2030, that will, I think, be universal. Computing power in mobile phones, computing power in front-end machines is going up quite a bit. I would say now starting to embed, a lot of that capability right at the coalface, I think makes a lot of difference. I've been involved in implementing the 10-bed ICU project. This is bringing ICUs into district hospitals, with the hub being the government medical college. I mean, it's remarkable how well it's working, because there's optic fiber, there is real-time live connectivity, there's a lot of processing that is being done at the front end. In Nagaland, the only choice people had was to transfer patients to Kohima. There was no other way to do it. Now, you can do fairly advanced, complicated things right there at the front end, with the specialists sitting very far away, sometimes somewhere else in the world even. And until now, this was talk. Everybody would talk about it in sci-fi kind of ways. I'm actually starting to see it come together. I really feel, it's the next version of telemedicine that you are starting to see now, where local people, local MBBS doctors, local workers are doing things that one would only imagine would be done much later.
Any last words from any of you as we close out?
So I think I only want to conclude. I would say one thing. I would say only one thing. There are too many ideas, but we can only work on one idea and make it a success, rather than talking and talking about many ideas. So I think Dr. Chawla has given a very good suggestion, and we would basically take as a homework from here to see that how and which way we can develop this idea. That's the way I think I would like to conclude.
You could not have summarized it better. Thank you, Mr. Patel. And not only was it a pleasure actually learning about all of the work that the IPA companies have done and writing the report, but this has been a very, very inspiring conversation. I know that we have a live feed. We're also going to summarize this discussion and then disseminate it widely. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate your opinions and ideas. And you have our full support to take, Dr. Chawla's idea. Sir, whatever you need from us, we're here to help. Thank you very much. And Archana, just turning over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Priya. And thank you all the panelists for such an enriching discussion. And I would like to especially thank Dr. Chawla on his valuable suggestions, and we will definitely take it up for discussion at the IPA so that we can work on one or two of these concrete ideas. As we come close to the conclusion of this event, which focused on the responsible business practices, which are beyond CSR by some of the large Indian pharmaceutical companies, we feel accomplished and look forward to the positive transformations ahead, as we believe what was famously said once by Winston Churchill: we make a living by what we get, but what we make alive is what we give. Our IPA member companies have followed this ethos because giving is not a choice, but a duty in the Indian culture. And as they say, Shraddheya Deyam, Ashraddheya Adhyayam. The spirit of being translated by the IPA members while they undertook these initiatives, which have been very well put up in the report that we have just released today. Throughout the event, I think we heard from the industry leaders very demonstrated a strong commitment to health collaborations on sustainable innovations on how to empower the communities. And I think this commitment goes beyond mere compliance and signifies a genuine acknowledgement of pharma industry's role in ensuring public health and well-being. As we conclude, let's carry forward the lessons and the insights gained fostering a collective dedication to responsible business practices. The shared commitment in this room, I think, instills confidence in the positive trajectory in which the pharma industry would go in responsible business journey. I would like to thank all the speakers, Dr. Chawla, Secretary, Department of Pharmaceuticals, Mr. Shangvi, Mr. Patel, Mr. Reddy, Dr. Moore, Ms. Priya, and Mr. Jain for such a fantastic, enriching discussion. Your words will continue to inspire us at the Secretariat. I would also like to thank all the member companies who supported us with their input throughout the development of this report. A special thank you to Team Samvita for partnering and for their continuous support in bringing this report together. I thank also the IPA Secretariat team, especially Mr. Jain, Pranav, Nikita, for all their contributions in preparing this report and their support throughout. I also thank the communication team of Avian for their contribution in putting together this event. And lastly, I thank all our audience for taking out your precious time and attending this webinar. Have a lovely evening, and we'll see you soon with some other important report and some of the ideas that we have heard from today. We'll work upon it and we'll come back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.